our signees. Obviously, a really important day for our program, National Signing Day, and 3 guys that have been committed to us for some time now finally signed their national letter of intent, so I can communicate about them. As a whole, every coach is going to stand up there and say meet needs and different things like that. I want to start with what phenomenal people they are. We're dealing with 3 young men that come from great families, have a tremendous foundation in terms of success, both academically and athletically, and they're young men that I don't think have come close to the ceiling of what they're going to become as basketball players. And when you recruit that kind of people, then you have a chance to maximize that talent, and that talent's pretty high. So really excited about all 3 of them. They've all gotten to be pretty close. Obviously, 2 of them are brothers, but they've all 3 have gotten to be pretty close. You know, Mike Saunders. Mike's an interesting story. Mike's a young man that I've known since he was in the 7th grade. My first, I think it was 7th or 8th grade, my first team camp in Northern Kentucky. He came over, one of the top high school teams in Indiana, and I was like, we need to watch this young man. Long arms, extremely fast. I think he's one of the fastest guys on the circuit out there. Really dynamic point guard. I think a future leader, a young man who really gets in a lot of ways on and off the court and plays at Wasatch, which is one of the top prep schools in the country. Traditionally plays for national championships. And then we got the Matson twins. We got Mason. Both of the twins play for their dad up in Rochester Mayo High School, and coaches kids, as Mike Saunders is as well. Tough. You know, I liken him to, you know, he's gonna irritate the opponent, and he's a guy that you want on your team and not play against. Athletic, cerebral, shot maker. I think he's a guy that will also play a leadership role in his career. And Gabe Matson is a dynamic talent, big-time scorer, got great size for his position, positional size, really shoots it, can shoot it. You know, the type of guy doesn't have to have his feet square to shoot it. He can shoot in a lot of different areas. And he's a guy that he's got a toughness about him that you don't really appreciate. He shattered his nose in a game and stayed in the game the entire time and came back the next day and played. So the toughness factor of these guys is really good. So couldn't be more excited with these 3. I think our staff did a phenomenal job. Our coaches were on it from the beginning, understood the needs we had, and we answered those.
I know it's easy to say point guard is fast. It's said about every one of them, but end to end, what makes Mike different in his ability to beat defenses to the rim and really put pressure on people as he plays downhill, because it's remarkable.
Speed, yeah, his speed is the difference maker. I don't know how else to say. He's really hard to keep in front. So if he makes the right decision, then the play's going to be advantageous for our team because he's going to go by you. He's got that kind of speed.
Gabe has the reputation, rightfully so, as a shooter, but certainly not one-dimensional as an offensive player. He can put it on the floor and do a lot of things.
I think Gabe's the type of guy that you can really run a lot of stuff through. I think he's got the potential to be that kind of offensive talent where you can move him around, run sets for him, run actions for him, which is what I like to do. So I really believe he's that kind of shot maker.
And then Mason gives you position versatility in terms of being able to play on, off the ball, and maybe hopefully as he develops, defend multiple positions with the stuff.
Multiple position guy. The more I watched Mason, the more I realized that, again, he was an irritant, you know, a lot of times, and he just got in it. Our fans love him. He's a tough nut with positional size as well.
And he can shoot.
Yeah, he can shoot. That's an important part of it.
You got to feel pretty good getting 3 in the early period, given that you had to hit the ground running in April and rebuild the roster you already have here.
That's the hardest part. So we signed, 7, I guess, right, when we first got the job, and we didn't even have a full recruiting. We're still the full recruiting class in terms of recruiting. The class would be 2021, right? So 2020, 2021. So we haven't even gotten that year in yet. So this class was a 5-month recruiting process. But again, there were some relationships prior that I think really helped us in it.
John, you've seen your team for 2 games now. What's kind of your take on where they are and what you've seen out of the growth of them for 2 games?
Yeah, it's interesting. 2 very different games. 2 different environments in terms of which is good. You learn your team. I've always taken the stance is you don't really know your team until you really kind of go through that 3 days in those MT events. the empty events I hate as a coach because you don't sleep for 3 straight days, and it's just, it doesn't matter. Your family's at the beach, but you're not. But you get so much out of it. So I'm answering your question in a roundabout way. I'm not there yet. We're still learning about them. I was really excited about the steps we took offensively in terms of our execution. I've been excited the last 2 games about the defensive tenacity when we lock in, the defensive IQ for game plan adjustments and game plan implementation. Those are things that I've been really impressed with. I think that speaks to the culture of the program prior to me, and I think it also speaks to the IQ of the young man in terms of understanding how important those things are.
You kind of implied in Columbus about you and Jaron kind of filling each other out a little bit, and just kind of him and kind of getting that, full flow in your offense.
Mm-hmm.
How has he developed? I know it's been a short time, but how do you see him developing in that way?
I mean, great talent. He makes the right decision. I mean, all the time. It's really uncanny how he makes the right decision with the basketball. So just, understand the nuances and, a cut here at the right time will make the next catch easier. And it's not just Jaron, it's our whole team. Just understanding, if you do this, it leads to the next thing. And that takes time. That takes, getting it over a long period of time all of a sudden.
When you make shots, the shot selection seems like it's okay. Was it better, though, against Drake than what you saw?
The Ohio State shot selection was poor to awful. 16 shots were poor shot selection. Again, I hadn't identified shot selection a whole lot going into the game. I wanted to find out. I wanted to see how guys reacted and different things. I want to learn our team. The stats still hadn't played out in terms of our practice stats, exactly where I was going to give guys licenses. I gave guys some licenses after the Ohio State game, and I think that showed up in the next game. When you shoot to your license, you're probably going to make more shots.
Besides leadership and toughness, are there some general traits that you're looking for in a point guard recruit?
Extension of the coach. I want somebody I can really connect with. Really important. It's funny because my last 2 all-conference point guards came in as 3 men. We transitioned them into point guards after evaluating them and watching them. And so I'm not sold on saying you got to be a point guard or your entire life. You're born that way. I don't believe in that. I think guys that can understand the game, have a headiness to them, a toughness about them, and a connection with the head coach that allows us to be able to communicate on the court, to be able to make adjustments on the fly, really. That's the unique thing about basketball and football. It's not as regimented. There's more on-the-fly decisions because it's such a fast-paced game.
Is there a way to maybe evaluate how maybe a prospect will be able to adjust on the fly as his career develops, or is that something that you might not know?
Yeah, all recruiting's projected.
Yeah.
You're projecting everything. You like to see, you think you got to know the high school coach well enough. I tell guys all the time, you never know a player until you coach them. That's what the NBA guys, they'll call and they'll be like, ask me about other players on other teams. If I've coached them, I know. So you never really know until you coached them. And you hope that you've checked all the boxes and you've done all your research with the high school coach, people you trust, and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's kind of up in the air.
So it's really about getting to know parents, getting to know high school AAU coaches as best you can, and just trying
There's
to
no
learn
question. It's building the trust. The trust piece is big. So, Mike Saunders walks in the door with, a family that really trusts me. And I trust them a great deal. So he's going to be able to go through growing pains, knowing that, we're going to be able to get through those growing pains. And that's a big piece of it. That's a big piece of the recruiting process.
Do you think your future recruiting classes moving forward, it's hard to look into the future and predict these things, but do you think they'll look more like this where it's a high school only kind of recruiting class as opposed to a lot of transfers and trying to fit some holes as you make the transition?
It depends on early, late. If you look at my classes traditionally, it's been all high school. That's the way we want to build our program, and that's the way I think you win championships ultimately. But grad transfers have been great for this program this year. Our grad transfers have really played well. Going into July, I didn't have any big guys. Now we got 2 7-footers that are holding Caleb Weston 7 points, in the first game of the year. So, transfers are an important piece of it, and we have to recognize that. And we also got to add some pieces to this current class.
You probably would have to mine that a little bit this year going into next year as well, right? With grad transfers or maybe transfers in general, just given what you lose.
Yeah. So to be completely transparent, we have a portion of our recruiting system that guys evaluate that. So they accumulate tape throughout the year of potential grad transfers and just watch tape. So if that person hits the portal, we already know what the evaluation is. So we have that in-house already that we work on.
Anything else?
Cool.
That's good.
Thanks, John.
KB, you missed it, man. I was eloquent.
Were you killing
First
it?
5 minutes there were great.
I wish I knew you were coming over, I wouldn't have driven over. Yeah, I'll take it if that helps you.
Shut my mouth.
Yeah.
I don't know how, when you guys are hated.